Hi everyone, so a while back I made the everything you need to know about UC Davis video. If you haven't seen it yet, it has a ton of information and general statistics about the university. So if that interests you, then please feel free to check it out. However, in this video, I just want to talk about pros and cons of UC Davis. I noticed that most, if not all, other UCs had a pros and cons video except for Davis, so I thought I just might as well create one. I know that UC Davis admissions typically come in around March, and the plan for fall 2021 is to return back on campus, so hopefully this resource is great for current and prospective students. Okay, let's start with the pros first. The first pro, and probably the most obvious one, is the brand reputation and prestige. So according to the latest college rankings, I think UC Davis ranks 11th overall in public universities and 39th overall in national universities. Now, rankings doesn't mean everything, but it does give you the assurance that you know you'll be getting great value and a great education. From my experiences, the academic workload is certainly challenging, but it is doable and is not as rigorous as other universities. And on the topic of academics, UC Davis offers a ton of variety in terms of classes and majors. For example, UC Davis offers a tractor driving class. How cool is that? Now, I actually lost sight of this and I never had the opportunity to take this, but if this interests you, you might want to check it out. UC Davis offers over 100 majors, and I encourage everyone to take a look at this website that I'll have a link in the description to see what majors interest you. Okay, so the next pro of UC Davis is definitely the people, and I'm not just talking about the students, I'm referring to the staff, faculty, and the local residents here. If I were to generalize the people here at Davis in one word, I would probably use the word chill. Everybody here minds their own business, and you won't be in trouble unless you're actively searching for it, if that makes any sense. That's not a guarantee, but my point is everybody here is friendly and they're willing to help if you're willing to ask. Sadly, that does not apply to everybody here. You might come to contact someone who is the complete opposite of who I just described, and honestly, that's just the beauty of that diversity here at Davis. And I'm sure that's applicable to all the other colleges out there. So pro number 4 would be the amount of food, drinks, and shops that are within walking distance from campus. So here's a map of Davis, and this is the University Mall, or the U Mall, that's just north of campus. It has a Starbucks, boba shop, Trader Joe's, and some other stores nearby. And to the right of campus is more boba and restaurants downtown, and it only takes a few minutes to walk. Typically in a normal world, students have a bunch of choices to choose from in terms of getting lunch, dinner, or even just getting a quick snack. I really didn't notice how nice it was until I graduated and I no longer had these types of options. And if you're someone who typically enjoys just eating the same thing over and over again, this would be a great opportunity to you to explore some of the stuff that Davis offers. You're able to choose from pizza, Thai, sushi, and Viet, just to name a few. Okay, so the next pro, and something that I really want to highlight, is the environment here at Davis. As you may already know, it's bike friendly and is extremely safe. You know, to be honest, I don't recall a time where I ever felt unsafe here at Davis, but I made precautions to ensure that I never did anything that could potentially make me a target here. But I digress. Even though Davis is bike friendly, there are rules that you are expected to know and follow. But it's not something you lose sleep over. I'm mainly just talking about having a bike light and knowing the right of way in a bike roundabout. They also cover a ton of this in orientation, so I'm not expecting you to do a ton of research before you even step foot on campus. There are a ton of bike racks and shops here, so you shouldn't have a problem finding one. I would add that if you're bringing or buying an expensive bike, then please get a nice block to match. Because Davis is a bike town, there are going to be a ton of bikes on campus, and thieves will see the opportunity to take whatever isn't locked. So the next pro of UC Davis are the opportunities. There are a ton of on and off campus jobs, internships, clubs, sororities, and fraternities. And I'm sure you can find whatever you're looking for plus more. There's also an option to create a club if it doesn't exist already. You really just have to put a little bit of effort and get your name out there to take advantage of all the resources at your disposal. A phrase that would describe Davis is, you get what you put in. And this is my explanation. I'm going to describe 2 people here at Davis and you tell me who's getting the most out of their time here. Okay, so person A lives at home, goes to campus, goes to class, finishes class, and goes back home. Person B also lives at home, goes to campus, goes to class, finishes class, but goes to internship and career fair, applies for internships, joins a bunch of clubs, and then goes back home. Now, I know everybody here in Davis has a different story, so I don't want to get too much into that, but my point is if you have the time to invest into yourself and explore many of these different opportunities, it's only going to enrich your experience here. So my last pro is going to be the Davis campus itself. It's a large campus, and I think it's the largest or the second largest behind Merced. But with all that available space, I'm sure you can find a study spot that's extremely quiet and brings you peace. Davis is also known for hosting Picnic Day, which is essentially just an open house, and there's a bunch of fun activities all around campus. There are a ton of events happening throughout the year. There was a Chance the Rapper concert that happened a few years ago, and I went to it and it was super fun. And of course I gotta mention the Arboretum, which is great for people who just want to sit down and relax. Okay, so now let's switch over to the cons, and the very first con that comes to mind is the parking. Current and past students who have brought their cars, purchased permits, and tried to find parking will understand my struggle. There's just not enough parking, period. Now, if something's changed the past year, I can't speak to it because I wasn't there, but if nothing's changed, then it's just a huge problem that hasn't been addressed. It came to a point where I was just honestly better off walking than driving because it's just not car friendly here. I came to understanding that if I had class from 10 to 2, then driving would be the worst case scenario. And let me just paint a picture into why this is such a huge problem. I remember having a class at 12, and when I drove to campus, there were cars already parked waiting for people to come by and ask them if they were leaving. That's when I knew I was already going to be late. On a serious note, the past 2 years when I revisited Davis, I've seen a ton of renovations and new buildings, but I've yet to see anything changed about the parking. But it's something that's just not in our control, but it's something to look out for. The second con is the size of the school, but let me explain. There are over 30,000 undergraduate students here at Davis, and an introductory economics class can be close to 400 to 500 people in a single lecture hall. It lowers dramatically when you take upper division classes because the people that are in the class actually need it for their major versus someone who just needs it for an elective. Adding on to that is the inconsistent professors and their teaching styles. Registration is always impacted given the size of the school, and the classes with the best professors is often filled up first. Back to the example with the economics class, there could be 2 professors teaching the same course, but obviously with different sections. The first professor could be really familiar with technology and they use PowerPoints and they upload the recording of that lecture so you can view it online later. While the second professor is a lot more old-fashioned. They don't use PowerPoint, they use a chalkboard, and they don't even upload the recording online. And speaking from personal experience, it's definitely unfair to have that first class being filled up before your registration time, but that's really just the reality of it. The next con is the weather, and that's not Davis's fault by any means. It's just a byproduct of being in North California. But don't get me wrong, Davis has some beautiful temperature in spring and maybe even early fall, but I wanted to list this as a con because when it gets bad, it's really bad. When it rains here, it pours, and when it's sunny here, it's a drought. The first example can be in the winter when you have back-to-back classes and you'll have 10 minutes to get from one side of the campus to the other side of campus. And keep in mind, it's raining. When it's raining, it's already difficult to bike, and by the time you step foot into that second class, you're already drenched. And on the complete opposite end, if you're unfortunate enough to stay in Davis during the summer, then prepare yourself for some extreme heat because it reaches 100 degrees easily and consistently. However, it's not as bad as I make it out to be. It is bad, but you'll be used to it by the second year. So something I heard a lot, especially my first year here at Davis, was that Davis was boring. And it is, or it can be. A lot of students decide to go home on the weekends, and there's honestly not too much to do at Davis. But if you wanted to do the other activities, then you're gonna have to drive to Sacramento or the Bay Area. That said, Davis does have a social life. It's probably not as notorious for it as some other schools, but if you enjoy partying and all that other fun stuff, I'm sure you can find it without much of a struggle. Okay, so the last con I wanted to discuss is the lack of school spirit. And this was something that I had trouble identifying why that is. When I think of schools that have abundance of school spirit, I think of top-ranked programs who have decorated sport teams and notable alum, and maybe a lack of that is causing this. But I also think Davis is all about keeping their head down and letting their work do their talking for them. The people here at Davis are humble, and like I said earlier, they're chill. At the same time, I think Davis is on an upward trend and is being deservingly recognized. A few years ago, the men's basketball team entered their first NCAA tournament, and just last year, an alum won for the discovery of the hepatitis C virus, which I believe is Davis's second overall Nobel Prize. Okay, so this wraps up the UC Davis pros and cons video. If I left something out, please let me know in the comments below. I hope this video was helpful, and I wish everybody the best of luck. And like always, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.